The night before the wedding, Richard's ex-girlfriend called. "I've taken something. It kicks in 30 minutes. If you don't come, I'll sleep with someone else." I grabbed Richard and warned him coldly, "If you walk out that door, I'll ruin you." He flung me to the floor in a hurry. "Stop being ridiculous." I sneered and dialed the number of his archenemy. "Are you free the day after tomorrow? Let's get married." He replied, "Wait for me. I'm going to steal a household registration book." Chapter 1. At exactly 10 that night, the doorbell rang urgently in the living room. I looked up from the documents and glanced at the bathroom. Richard was still in the shower. We had no secrets between us and often checked each other's phones. Besides, the wedding was the day after tomorrow. We were legit. Thinking this, I casually picked up Richard's phone. The ringing continued. It was an unfamiliar number. As I answered, heavy metal music blasted through the speaker, making me frown. Probably a wrong number, I thought. I was about to hang up when a tearful female voice stopped me. "Richard, I regret it. You're marrying Olivia just to spite me. You'll only hurt 2 girls at once. Will you propose to me again? This time, I'll say yes. I'll be your bride." After she finished, the background noise faded, and both ends of the call went deathly quiet. While she waited nervously, holding her breath, I just found it ridiculous. An ex-girlfriend, calling the night before her ex's wedding, trying to rekindle old flames. How shameless. How warped. Even more absurd, Richard once said he had never loved anyone. Holding the phone, my eyes fell back on the documents, but I couldn't make out the words. Who was that? Richard came up to me, a towel wrapped around his waist, drying his hair. I stared at him and, under his confused gaze, put the call on speaker. "Richard, I'm at Club Zona right now." I drugged myself. "If you're not here in 30 minutes, I'll find another man to fix it." Richard froze, towel midair, panic flashing across his eyes. He grabbed the phone and hung up. I watched him coldly, taking in every inch of his panic. Probably one of Pablo's sick jokes, trying to mess with me. "Don't worry about it. Don't answer random calls like that anymore." Within seconds, Richard had regained his composure. "You go ahead and sleep. It's our last night of freedom. The bachelor party might go late." As he spoke, Richard walked into the walk-in closet. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Richard was known for being meticulous. Every outfit had to match, cufflinks and brooches perfectly coordinated. Even each strand of hair had its place. But now, without even looking, he grabbed 2 mismatched pieces and threw them on. "If you're gonna lie, at least put in some effort." "Do you think I'm stupid? Pablo's got a cast on his left leg and he's still in the hospital. It's on his WeChat moments, and I haven't heard a single thing about a bachelor party. Now you get a flirty call and suddenly rush off to see your pill-popping old flame?" I glared at him and questioned coldly, arms folded tight, caught in his lie. Richard's expression twisted awkwardly. After a long pause, he forced a reply. "I'll explain everything when I get back. I can't watch her spiral like this, especially not because of me. I'll take her to the hospital and come right back. I won't miss the wedding tomorrow." Richard walked past me, but I grabbed his arm, my eyes sharp. "If you go, I'll ruin you." We froze in place. Then his phone rang again. This time, it was a staff member. "Is this Mr. Richard? Your friend. Hey, stop undressing." Richard's breath hitched, and he yanked his arm free. "Stop being ridiculous. It all happened so fast." I stumbled and fell hard to the floor. My arm scraped, beads of blood forming. Hiss, I bit down. "Richard." He turned back, seeming like he wanted to help me up, but the phone buzzed frantically in his pocket. In the end, he went straight for the door and grabbed his keys. He only left one sentence behind: "The first aid kit's in the cabinet on the left. Take care of it. I'll be back soon." And just like that, Richard left. I looked down at my bloodied arm, eyes turning cold. I picked up my phone and called Richard's worst enemy, Claude. "Keep your schedule open the day after tomorrow. Let's get married." There was a long silence, then a loud curse from the other end. "Fuck. Wait there. I'm going to steal a household registration book right now." Chapter 2. After Claude agreed over the phone, he hung up cleanly. Half an hour later, he showed up downstairs at my place. The first thing he looked at was my injury. His brows furrowed instinctively, then quickly relaxed. He switched to his usual lazy tone. I had expected him to ask about all the drama behind my sudden change of groom. I also half expected him to start mocking me right away. I was ready for his sarcastic punches. But instead, he went off script. At the traffic light, after glancing at me for the 8th time, I couldn't hold it in anymore and snapped. If you've got something to say, just say it. Stop hovering like a drama queen. So rude. Claude muttered. I was just wondering, which hospital would you like to go to? I choked. But he kept rambling. How about we go back to City A? While they still think you're the future Mrs. Boss. Might as well cash in on that. I'm speechless. Just then the light turned green, and the car merged into traffic. I watched the cityscape drift past the windows, licked my dry lips, and suddenly spoke. Later. Give me a front page push. I want to go live. Claude kept one hand on the steering wheel, rummaged around with the other, and tossed me a bottle of milk. He asked casually, Sure, are we announcing our love story? The corner of my mouth curled up. My voice turned ice cold. We're busting a cheater. The wound was bandaged quickly. By the time we left the hospital, it was nearly midnight. Without stopping, Claude drove us straight to the club in Zone A. He was afraid I'd regret it if we were a second too late. Thanks to my future boss's wife status, it was easy to get Richard's room number. I started the live stream and followed Claude into the elevator. The moment the door opened, we were hit by the sound and sight of something steamy and familiar. Richard's breathing was uneven. Luna. Stop it. I'll take you to the hospital. So the ex's name was Luna. I thought I was calm, but my trembling hands betrayed me. From behind, Claude reached out to steady the camera with one hand, half wrapping around me. In the live stream feed, Luna was swaying unsteadily in Richard's arms, panting and laughing. You came. I knew you couldn't stay away from me. When I saw the news that you were getting married, I lost it. I skipped the competition and flew straight back. You're marrying that Olivia woman because her lips look like mine. She likes painting, just like me. Loves musicals, just like me. She paused, then gave a smug little laugh. Admit it. You've always loved me, and I still love you. Richard didn't say a word. He just held Luna's waist and shoved her hard against the wall, kissing her fiercely. Darkness suddenly fell over my eyes. It was Claude. He leaned in and whispered in my ear. Don't watch. It's filthy. Claude shut down the blazing hot live stream for me and quietly led me back out. The hallway lights were bright, casting every bit of Claude's righteous anger in sharp relief. He was muttering curses under his breath, even more worked up than I was. It made me want to laugh. At the same time, something warm stirred inside me. I patted him on the shoulder. Why so angry? Let the bullet fly for a while. Chapter 3. Everyone in the circle knew that whenever Claude and Richard met, sparks flew, but no one really knew why. All they knew was that Richard had always been the golden boy. One day, he set Claude up and got him beaten by his family. The next, Claude would turn around and beat the crap out of him personally. So when Claude showed up at the wedding as the groom, the venue went dead silent. Do I have to personally cue the process now? Claude raised an eyebrow and looked at the MC with a half smile. Let's welcome the bride. The host stammered. I slipped a ring onto Claude's finger. When it was his turn, the banquet hall doors were suddenly pushed open. I thought it was Richard, but instead it was Pablo, limping in on crutches. Whoosh. Claude slipped the ring on my finger at lightning speed. As if he was afraid some dramatic twist might crash in, I was forced to tear my gaze away from the door, only to meet a pair of amused eyes. Wasn't this supposed to be your wedding with Richard? After the ceremony, Pablo came over, still visibly shaken. I said, well, Richard's a bit busy, might still be tangled up in bed with his old flame. I was smiling on the surface, but my eyes were cold. No way. Pablo refuted instinctively. Everyone knows Richard cares about you. Last year when you two were kidnapped, he gave up his escape chance for you. He's been into you for ages. Remember sophomore year when you did the exchange program? Richard kept finding excuses to fly there to work. He even learned to cook because he worried you couldn't get used to the food he's only ever cooked for you. I didn't feel like reminiscing, so I cut off Pablo's Richard praising monologue. He gave me the chance to run because he'd broken his leg. I was the one who could get out and call for help. As for the business trips, Luna just happened to be in the same country. I was the side trip. I'd only uncovered that little detail yesterday. And about the cooking, he barely cooks 10 times a year. Who exactly do you think that's for? I've done plenty of dumb things for him too. Don't try to guilt trip me. Since we were kids, I'd always been Richard's shadow. In middle school, I skipped classes for him and threatened any girl who tried to get close. I poured all my energy into him and let my studies go to hell. My family couldn't stand it, so they sent me abroad. I didn't come back until college. I didn't feel like talking more. Instead, I cast last night's recording onto the screen. From the moment I opened the door to the sounds of tangled moans, Pablo shut up and left awkwardly. Chapter 4. Luna's sudden reappearance was like claws ripping through Richard's polished facade. And inside, I saw the rot. That night, after a shower, I lay on the bed in silk pajamas, watching the screen light up with messages from my best friend. You have no idea how satisfying it is. People are roasting them online. Coup Corp's stock is crashing. But seriously, why Claude? And how did you even convince him? Did you two actually, I tapped my reply. They're arch-enemies. He's thrilled to ruin Coup Corp's day. It's just an act. No way we actually did anything. But before I could send it, a hand reached over and took my phone. I turned my head to see Claude, completely naked, leaning over me. He scrolled through my screen lazily and tossed the phone aside. Then he lowered his head, eyes locked on mine, an eyebrow raised in amusement. From my angle, I could see the sharp line of his jaw, the tempting curve of his Adam's apple, his defined chest and abs. Farther down, I panicked and looked away. I cleared my throat, trying to stay composed. You dripped water on me. As I pushed at him, the silk pajama top slipped down, baring a pale shoulder and part of my chest. Claude's gaze darkened instantly. He pinned my wrists above my head. Who said I was acting? Now be good, take it. I was like a tiny boat tossed in the middle of a wild sea, rising and falling with each crashing wave. After the frenzy, I fell asleep from sheer exhaustion. The phone rang, barely conscious. I heard someone yelling. It was Richard, roaring in fury. If you dare touch Olivia, I swear to God. Chapter 5. The day after the wedding, I was shaken awake. The first thing I saw was a face way too close to mine. Startled, I jerked back, only to pull something sore from last night's chaos. A sharp wave of pain twisted my expression. Don't move. Let me massage it. In the quiet bedroom, I lay face down, buried in pillows. Claude didn't say another word. His hands pressed just right. Sleepiness washed over me again. Babe, don't fall asleep. We've got an urgent matter today. His husky voice tickled my ear, sending shivers straight to my scalp. Not to mention, his teeth nipping my earlobe. The mess from last night flashed back in my mind. I flinched at my own shamelessness and gritted my teeth. Let go. And don't call me that. Okay, wifey. Claude switched terms so smoothly. I doubted the first one wasn't intentional. I suddenly remembered something. You're not going to work? Claude had already thrown on a white shirt and black slacks, broad shoulders, slim waist, walking runway model. He glanced at me sideways. You already forgot what you promised me last night? Last night, the enemy's siege was too fierce. My defenses crumbled, and I'd signed a wildly unfair treaty under duress. Get dressed. We're going to register our marriage. Right. Claude had forced me to agree to get a marriage certificate last night. From the beginning, I told him this wedding was just a signal, strictly business. He didn't need to steal a household book or anything. Claude agreed way too quickly. Sitting in the car now, I suddenly felt like prey that had willingly walked into the hunter's trap. With 40% suspicion, 30% shock, and 10% sheer helplessness, I asked Claude, "You're not seriously into me, are you?" "Of course I am. Took you this long to notice?" Claude answered so naturally it actually made me pause. This was Claude's song. After all, the illegitimate son who'd only been recognized in high school. Everyone in our circle thought the Song family would give him a payout and send him away after he turned 18. But that same no-name kid no one respected? On his 18th birthday, he seized total control of the Song family. His words weren't meant to be taken at face value. I reminded myself once again, Don't be delusional. Chapter 6. Claude went to park the car. I waited outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. The scorching sun was already stifling. Richard showing up made it worse. He looked rough, even with foundation caked on. The dark circles under his eyes were obvious. Luna must have really done a number on him. The moment he saw me, Richard's dull eyes lit up. Like someone poured fresh spring water into him, he suddenly looked alive. I sneered inside and turned to walk the other way, trying to avoid this walking disaster. Footsteps trailed me, getting faster. Damn these heels, I was caught. He grabbed my wrist, pleading softly, "Olivia, I know I messed up badly. If I kneel right now and beg, will you forgive me?" Richard looked at me with desperate hope. Then kneel. He was gripping me hard, knowing I couldn't shake him off. I played along. My reply was too fast. It stunned him for a second. I raised my chin. "Go on, kneel." Richard stared at me like I was the love of his life. "Olivia, if I kneel, does that mean you'll forgive me? If you're gonna do it, do it. Don't stall, or did you think I still cared?" I had no more patience. I yanked at his fingers, face full of disgust. "You cling worse than duct tape. Trash belongs in the bin, don't crawl out and stink up the place." Richard liked obedient, gentle women. To fit that mold, I used to try so hard to play the part. Looking back now, it was pathetic. The more I struggled, the tighter Richard held on. He tried that old trick again, pulling me into a forced hug to shut me up. But before he could, Claude stormed back and punched him hard. Fury etched across his face like a dragon guarding stolen treasure. "You filthy toad," Claude growled. "You dare lay your dirty hands on my wife?" A real man. I barely held back a cheer. Claude moved too fast. Richard pressed his tongue against his bruised cheek, glaring murderously. "Hold on to this for me," Claude said. He handed me our documents, no creases. Not even a smudge. I froze. In just a blink, the two of them were brawling like wild beasts. By the time Luna arrived, Richard had already taken a hit to the face. She gasped and rushed over, then turned to scold me. "Miss Moo, happy now? Two great men fighting over you, does that feed your ego? Because of your obsessive clinging, Richard was forced to be with you. He couldn't go after what he truly loved. He was miserable, heart and soul. And now that he's finally free, you just can't stand to see him happy?" Luna wore a flowing white dress today, paired with that sweet, innocent face. She looked like a delicate little flower, soft but unyielding. I heard people whispering around us. I also saw the smug little smile Luna tried to hide. That look of "I'm so disappointed in you." My curiosity was piqued. Where the hell does Luna get the nerve to lecture me like she's some righteous victim? Chapter 7. With that smooth tongue of yours, did you invent debate competitions? You went to school with funds from my family, and right before my wedding, you climbed into my fiancé's bed. Now you're even smearing me in public. Your shamelessness could put fortress walls to shame. I hope you get exactly what you deserve. My family donates a large sum to charity every year. Since high school, my mom started personally sponsoring someone. According to her, that person and I had similar interests, should have had plenty to talk about. But who would have thought that person was Luna? Looking back now, her hobbies, painting, musical theater, were all copied. But I'd gone abroad in high school. How did she even know about me? "Miss Moo, I know you look down on people like me who grew up poor. You're used to being flattered. You can't handle criticism. But this is too much. How could you slander me like that?" Luna's indignant voice pulled me back. I looked carefully. Her eyes were already filling with tears. "Sponsorship was meant to give you an education, not train you to be a homewrecker." I held back Claude, who was ready to step in, and reached to touch the bruise on his lip. "Let's call it a day. No more photos. We're going home." As we passed Richard, he still wasn't ready to give up. His voice trembled slightly, hoarse and pitiful. "Olivia, I'm hurt. It really hurts. If it were before, I'd have rushed over, worried and fussing. Like last year on New Year's Eve, he'd gotten drunk and hit the edge of the table. I scrambled for the first aid kit, scolding him while tending to his bruise. "You know your pain tolerance is trash. Why are you always so careless? Serves you right." Outside the window were countless lights of the new year. Inside, it was just the two of us. quiet and warm. I remember asking, "Does it hurt?" "It does," he said softly, finally smiling. Richard knew exactly how to melt me, but those days are over. "Richard, you disgust me. You're trying to guilt-trip me? Didn't your little mistress just say I've been bullying her? After spending the night with her, the least you could do is protect her, no?" Claude chuckled and added, "Well, when something comes for free, it'll never compare to something hard-earned." Seeing me unmoved, Richard gritted his teeth and lashed out at Claude. "Claude Song, do you dare tell Olivia how you really got control of the Song family? Do you dare let her know how ruthless you were, how cold-blooded? You used your own mother for leverage. Your grandma, the woman who raised you." Slap. I struck him before he could finish. My palm stung, but my heart felt lighter. Richard stared at me, stunned. I hadn't thought much, just knew I couldn't let him keep talking. I looked toward Claude, whose face had gone pale, like he'd fallen into some dark trance. I grabbed his hand and dragged him away. As for Richard's words, who cared? The car was silent. I wanted to pull him out of his dark mood, but realized I didn't know him well at all. I'd only returned to the country in college, always trailing behind Richard. My interactions with Claude had been nothing more than polite hellos at parties or brief run-ins on campus. "Want a drink? I'll join you." "Sorry." We spoke at the same time, at the red light. He turned and gave me a soft smile. "I wanted to take you home for a nap after we registered. Should have known, woke up on the wrong side of fate." I said nothing. "I'll drop you off to rest." If Claude was going to pretend nothing happened, I wasn't going to go chasing trouble. After all, this was still a mutually beneficial arrangement. Claude returned home late that night. He opened the door, surprised to see me still awake. "Waiting for me?" I rolled my eyes, saved my file, and closed the laptop. He smelled like water and steam, hair still damp, a faint blend of alcohol and tobacco clinging to him. I pointed at him. "You stink. Don't even think about touching my bed tonight." Leaning against the doorframe, he chuckled. "Relax. I'm just here to report my schedule. Got a last-minute business trip. Should take about a week." Chapter 8. After Claude left on his trip, life went on as usual. The only annoying part was Richard, who must have lost his mind. He ignored his company, camping outside my building every day. One afternoon, as I stepped out of the elevator from the company parking lot, someone suddenly grabbed my wrist. I jumped. "It's me, Olivia." Richard's eyes devoured me from head to toe, full of possessiveness. "What the hell do you want now?" I snapped, furious. If there had been any leftover feelings before, they were now completely torched. These days, I wished I could carry a machete just for him. If Richard appeared, I'd swing. "Olivia, I know you and Claude are putting on a show, to hurt me, to get revenge. Let's just meet halfway, forget each other's mistakes, and get back together. How about it?" Looking at this version of Richard, thick-skinned and shameless, I nearly laughed out loud. "Let's be clear, you're the only one who cheated. Claude and I are married. Sleeping together is completely natural." Okay, calm down," Richard said, grinning indulgently, like he was trying to pacify a child. "I mainly came to tell you this. Claude's company has had its funding cut off. You should be careful. Don't let him use you." For once, Richard left without dragging things out. I sat in the car for a long time, wondering if there was truth in what he said. Claude had left in a rush for that business trip, didn't even pack properly. I remembered him saying, "Hold him down," to someone on the phone as he walked out. The Song family had long straddled both the light and dark sides of business. On the surface, they were clean now, but who really knew what went on beneath? The more I thought, the more my head hurt. After pulling multiple all-nighters, I'd finally secured a deal with an international client. All that was left was signing the contract. After thinking it through, I asked my assistant to swap out the travel rep this time. I'd go myself. Call it escapism. Sure, but it worked. For several days, I thoroughly enjoyed myself abroad. Claude messaged me during that time, said his return was delayed. I ignored him. Even when I landed at the airport, I felt reluctant to come back. My assistant had returned ahead of me and said a driver was already arranged. It wasn't until I got into the car that I realized something was off. Chapter 9. Pull over. I need to buy something. Up ahead was the fork between the highway to the city and the road to the company. There was a small roadside store. The driver ignored me completely. Miss Moo, please stay seated. In the rearview mirror, his masked face revealed a faint warning in his eyes. A chill ran through me, and I sat back down quietly. A kidnapping, fighting back head-on would be reckless. Were they targeting me, or trying to use me against Claude? The wedding had been high-profile, after all, and in business, making enemies is inevitable. My mind was racing until the moment I saw Luna. Then everything stopped. All I felt was a kind of ridiculous powerlessness. I looked into you. You've got real talent in painting. Your mentor spoke highly of you. You have a bright future ahead. Is it really worth ruining your life, committing a crime, all for a man? I was tied to a pillar, arms bound behind me, trying to reason with Luna. But women consumed by love, they don't think like the rest of us. She pressed a blade to my face. You don't get it. You were born into love, a perfect home, spoiled like a princess. You went to a fancy school, with the best equipment money could buy. And me? I learned English from audio recordings donated by people like you. You had it all. Back in middle school, we did have a program like that. The school picked students with perfect pronunciation to record videos. The equipment and lessons were donated to impoverished rural schools. It was both a PR stunt for the school and a training opportunity for us. I was selected to do the recordings, so she had her eye on me even back then. Luna raised her hand in front of my face, forcing me to look. See these rough hands? Who'd believe these belong to a young woman? People from poor villages, harsh places, they turn out bitter. When I was beaten nearly to death, it was Richard who saved me. In that moment, he glowed. He was so noble, and he didn't flinch at how filthy I was. He gently cleaned my wounds, even asked if it hurt. That moment, I swore I'd become the woman who stood by his side. I didn't know whether to pity her or despise her. The rest, I could piece together. Luna got into the same school with top grades. Found out I was childhood friends with Richard. At first, she imitated everything I did to catch his attention. Then, slowly, she returned to being herself, and eventually, fully captured Richard's heart. I murmured, with all that skill, you could have done something amazing. Luna sneered. No man likes a strong woman, but you're the worst. She ground her teeth, every word soaked in hatred. Richard ditched your wedding. You're tainted. You ignore him, so why does he still keep running back to you? What kind of seductive trick are you using? Because he's pathetic. I didn't even hesitate in my answer. I expected Luna to defend him. She looked like she was madly in love, but instead, she froze for a second and then burst into laughter. Tears welled in her eyes as she doubled over. You're right, he is pathetic. But I'm still not satisfied. That's why I planned a little game. The crooked smile on her lips made my chest tighten. Luna pulled out a remote and pressed a button. Half the wooden platform I stood on shattered beneath me, revealing its true structure. We were in a warehouse built over the sea. One more click, and I'd drop straight into the waves. Hands tied. There'd be no surviving. I want to see. Between the two of us, who will Richard choose? Chapter 10. Luna had lost her mind. When I saw her holding the remote and walking toward me, the unstable wooden boards creaked beneath her weight. In that moment, I genuinely wanted Richard dead. To hell with his reckless flirting. To hell with his life or death games. To hell with all this crazy drama. All I could hope for now was that my assistant would notice something was wrong and call the police in time. Time ticked by slowly. I took deep breaths, forcing myself to stay calm. Luna, let me go and I promise, I'll stay far away from Richard. I swear, I'll back off. You can have the title of Mrs. Koo. You still think you're above me? Luna sneered, not taking the bait. Her laugh echoed through the empty warehouse, making my skin crawl. If Richard chooses me, then you die. If he chooses you, then I'm dragging you down with me. You're insane. Suddenly, footsteps, many, and disorganized. Hope flared in my chest. My eyes locked on the first person to walk through the warehouse doors. They swung wide open. It was Richard. And just like that, the spark of hope died again. Then, wife. My heart took another wild plunge. Never had it felt such a roller coaster of emotions. Claude's voice in that moment sounded like music to my ears. Claude! I stared at him with shining eyes. As soon as Claude entered, Luna pressed the knife tighter against my neck, screaming hysterically, because behind him stood over a dozen bodyguards. Tell them to get out. Tell them to leave, she shrieked. If you so much as scratch her, Claude said coldly, I'll make sure you don't just die. I'll make sure your corpse gets dug up and dragged through the streets. Richard stepped forward, brows furrowed. Luna, let Olivia go. I'll go with you. We'll turn ourselves in. I wanted to shove Richard's head straight into the ocean. Was he trying to provoke Luna further? Why the hell should I pay for his stupidity? As expected, Luna's grip tightened. The blade bit into my skin. I had to tilt my head back, the pain shooting straight to my brain. Claude's eyes went bloodshot. He turned sideways and kicked the driver to the ground. A man over 6 feet tall, curled up like a shrimp. Sweat broke out on his forehead instantly. Luna's face turned ashen. President's song. I was your matchmaker, wasn't I? Is this how you treat me? Use me and toss me aside? You? A matchmaker? Claude's voice was pure disdain. He gave me a calming glance, then turned to Luna, his expression colder than death. What are you saying? Richard, Claude sneered. You're not seriously going to play dumb now, are you? Grab him. The bodyguards were already in formation. At Claude's order, they moved in. Richard didn't even get a chance to resist. You didn't expect that one wild night would lead to the Koo family's dirty laundry being dug up. So you embezzled funds to cut off my cash flow, hoping to bring me down, and at the same time, win Olivia back. Patch that gaping hole in your family's empire. Claude's polished leather shoe pressed against Richard's jaw, a gesture meant to humiliate. You didn't expect Olivia to be this ruthless, so you told Luna to kidnap her so you could rush in, play the hero, with her life in your hands. Even if she wouldn't take you back, at least she wouldn't throw you under the bus, right, Mr. Koo? Claude stared down at Richard, his voice bone-chilling. Each word hit like a hammer, snapping me out of my daze. He was right. Some people don't have a conscience. They don't love you, but as long as they can gain something from you, they'll never leave. They'll suck your blood, tear at your flesh, and when you're used up and empty, they'll discard you without a second thought. While they go on living in luxury, Luna and I were both just pawns in Richard's game. Chapter 11. I glanced sideways at Luna. Her eyes were locked on Richard, filled with obsession. Then suddenly, her expression changed. A sharp snap echoed through the warehouse. Richard's arm had been dislocated, his groan low and pained. I may be scheming, Luna said coldly, but are you really any better, Richard? To get Olivia. You ignored her feelings and orchestrated a setup the night before her wedding, her fiancé in bed with another woman. She got kidnapped, and you showed up right after, knew it was dangerous, and still didn't stop it. In the end, it was all for your own benefit. So tell me, what makes your love any purer than mine? I had actually suspected something. There was a tracker on me, but Claude shouldn't have had access to it. Yet he found me, faster than even the police. Still, I couldn't say anything now. I saw a bodyguard quietly creeping toward me. Just one more step, and he could subdue Luna. But that one step was all it took for Richard to notice. He shouted, Luna, press the button. Luna stood on the fractured side of the platform. All she had to do was press it, and we'd both go down. Richard didn't care at all whether she lived or died. But Luna had long lost her mind. At his word, she obeyed without hesitation. I gasped instinctively, only to choke on seawater. The platform gave way beneath me, and the sea swallowed me whole. Just before I fell, I caught Claude's horrified eyes. The pressure crushed the air from my lungs. I felt like I was dying, visions flashing through my head like a reel. I saw a rundown house, messy and loud. A teenage boy in a blue and white school uniform stood quietly in that chaos. There was something clean about him. He stared at the frail old woman on the bed with aching sorrow. My heart softened. I walked over and patted his shoulder. Then the scene shifted. I was in a hospital. The boy sat outside the operating room, face buried in his hands, a heavy gloom around him. When the doctor told him she hadn't made it, he looked up. That's when I recognized him. It was a younger Claude, so we'd met long before I ever realized. I'd just forgotten. Back in high school, I remembered chatting with my best friend. She told me the Song family had taken in an illegitimate son. She said that son had thrown his birth mother out himself, just to earn the Song's favor. I hadn't paid much attention, just gossip. I'd moved on, but it had all been about him. In a daze, I saw someone diving into the water. A figure swam toward me. My vision was fading, I couldn't make out who it was, until familiar lips pressed against mine, sharing breath, and I knew it was Claude. Chapter 12. When I opened my eyes, the blinding white light made me flinch. I shut them again, waiting for the discomfort to pass. I heard the door open. Someone came to sit beside the bed. Olivia, you've been asleep for 3 days. Sleep any longer and you'll turn into a little pig. Claude took my hand and pressed it against his cheek. I mentally cursed him out in 100 creative ways. The doctor said if you sleep past 4 days, they'll have to shave your head to check for brain damage. He sighed dramatically. You love your hair more than you love me. It's not even close. But don't worry, even if you go bald, I'll still love you. My eyes flew open. I gritted my teeth. Don't you dare. Not pretending anymore? He grinned. When I saw the mischief in his eyes, I knew I'd been played. All the tests were done the day I was admitted. I glared at him. He just chuckled softly. Then he wrapped me in his arms, gently, but firmly. Thank God you're okay. He whispered, thank God. His voice trembled slightly, like someone who had almost lost everything. Feeling his arms around me, the anger I'd been holding onto slowly faded. Fine. Just the fact that he jumped into the ocean, risking his life to save me, that alone earned him a few points. He told me Luna had died in the sea. Her body was never recovered. As for Richard, he was convicted of embezzlement and kidnapping. One crime after another surfaced. He had a long list of skeletons in his closet. Looks like he'll be rotting behind bars for the rest of his life. Chapter 13. I still owed him for the stunt he pulled with Luna. Once I was mostly recovered, I moved back in with my parents. From then on, Claude's daily routine added a third location, our front gate. He'd show up after work every single day. My mom smacked the back of my head, not hard, but I still rubbed it anyway. How many times have I told you? Sit like a lady. You're not a street kid. Your dad and I both think Shashu's a decent man. Sure, he's a little ruthless, but that just makes us feel more secure. Don't screw it up, she added pointedly. She sat down beside me, and I quickly shoved a strawberry into her mouth. She didn't know about Claude and Luna, and I had no intention of telling her. Truth be told, Claude had his faults, but I wasn't blameless either. When I first suspected something, I chose to look the other way, for my own benefit. That partnership with the overseas client? I'd hitched a ride on Claude's success, but you still have to keep up appearances. If I don't throw a little attitude now and then, am I just gonna lie back and bear his children? I gently pressed my hand against my belly, then dug into my purse and pulled out a medical report. Don't worry, he's not going anywhere. My mom snatched the report from me and read it over carefully. Her face lit up brighter and brighter until she practically screamed. Etiquette be damned. Old Moo, your daughter's pregnant. She yelled it all the way out the door, dragging Claude into the house behind her. Apparently, she told him everything on the way in. The moment he saw me, his excitement overflowed. Wife! Hold it. I looked up at him. My mom had already gone upstairs to find my dad. Now it was just me and Claude in the living room. I wasn't planning to forgive you, I said calmly, but for the baby's sake, I think we can give this a try. Live like a normal couple, but we're not getting married, no legal paperwork. Claude clearly glitched for a second. Why not? I'm afraid you'll hit me. I said it matter-of-factly. We can sign a prenup, but if we're married and you hit me, that's domestic violence. It's harder to fight back legally. Claude let out a half laugh, half sigh. What are you even thinking? I'm not the violent type. That's what they all say. I crossed my arms. If we weren't married and he hit me, that's intentional assault. And if it was serious enough, attempted murder. Our families were evenly matched. No way he could pressure me with money or power. So, do you agree or not? Fine. Claude sighed in defeat. Can you come home with me now? I nodded. I'd gotten what I wanted, Pushing further would just be petty. That night, I said goodbye to my parents and left with Claude. Chapter 14. I never imagined pregnancy would be this hard. Morning sickness, muscle cramps, swelling. But the worst part? The emotional roller coaster. I couldn't even control when I laughed or cried. Claude lost so much weight he looked like a different person. According to my mom, the day our baby girl was born, when he heard we were both safe, Claude, all 6'2" of him, broke down crying on the spot. The funniest part? I was perfectly fine after giving birth. He's the one who got postpartum depression. One night, I woke up to find him sitting at the edge of the bed, quietly crying, like second nature. I poured water, got his meds, and coaxed him into taking them. By day, I went with him to see a therapist. For the first 2 months, we were practically glued together. Even I rarely saw the baby, because every time Claude looked at her, he'd get emotional and nearly cry again. It was funny, but it also melted my heart. Eventually, he named her Felicia. May everything go her way. Later, I asked him why she didn't take his last name. He kissed me and said, "I didn't suffer. I didn't do the hard part. I don't need credit or glory. Now sleep." He pulled me gently into his arms and reached over to turn off the bedside lamp. Tomorrow, after all, is another day.